morning. We are talking about 20 dating rules for 2020. 20 dating rules for 2020. Welcome back to Church Girls Want to Get Married. My name is Janice. Rule number 5 will be coming from my book, 23 Types of Guys You Might Meet on Social Media, about making a list of what you want. Do you have a list of what you want in a husband? Now, I know as church folks are saying, you don't need no list, girl. When God sends it to you, it is what it is, as if you don't have a choice in what kind of husband you want. What kind of husband you want? What is your list? What does your list look like? I had a list, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a list, because your list is your foundation. It's your guideline. It's your guidepost. It's your blueprint. Now, I want to remind you, number one of our 20 things we want to do in 2020, dating rules for 2020, choose a good husband. I am amazed at the number of women who complain about their husbands, about things you should have figured out and make a decision about while you were dating. So if you want to have a good life, you have to choose right. Take the cookie off the table is number 2. Take the cookie off the table. Number 2. Number 3, you need to learn your identity in Christ. If you know your identity in Christ, you will not allow some of the things you allow because you don't love yourself and you don't know who you are. I read yesterday about the first day she invited him over to his house and he played video games the whole tour. Well, you're the foolish woman for went to a man's house for the first date. But you know why you did that? Because you don't know your identity and you don't know who you are. Number 4, stop falling in love. Every man you meet, you're falling in love. Baby, your heart. I don't understand how you do that. What about your heart? And so number five is make a list. Have a list of things you want in a husband. Some people list is 100. Girl, that is too many things. You need a list of, you can memorize them in your head. You can know them. And while you're sitting in front of him, eating dinner, you can go over your list. I never go to movies, be in a romantic dark corner for a first date. First date, I like to sit in front of the man and look at him. My husband, first date, I remember he had on a yellow shirt, black tie. I think if I remember black tie, but I remember that yellow shirt, and I remember looking at him and I was like, he is so handsome. Because you know I love a handsome man. Next, my girl was like, girl, he is so good looking, because I love good looking men. So you need to have a list. Let me give you an idea of what some things should be on your list. For me, I have 10 things on my list of both negotiables and non-negotiables. Why? You can remember them. You have 10 fingers. Write them on there. For me, my number one thing on my list was he had to be born again. So if I met a man that was not born again, who was tall, dark, and handsome, guess what? My number one thing on my list was he was not born again. Therefore, there's no need for me to go out with him, spend time talking to him on the phone, doing all kind of crazy stuff when he is not born again. See, a lot of women, even in churchdom, even though he's not born again, you will try to get him saved. No. This is why you need a list of wisdom. And it took me years to gather my list and to point and get it down and to be smart about it and to use wisdom about it. The things that's important, as long as there is mutual interest, you'll like him. He looks good. He's tall. He's dark. He's handsome. As long as there's a physical attraction or there's interest of some kind, that's good. After that, him being tall and dark and handsome should not be on your list. That should be foundational. So for me, my number one was he had to be born again. So if I met lots of men who are not born again. Bye. No, we don't need to exchange numbers. No, we don't need to talk. No, I don't need to lead you to Jesus. Call my daddy. He's a bishop. He'll help you. Number 2 on my list was he had to be a tither. Tithing is important to me. I know that tithing has helped me throughout my life. So if I met a man who was saved, was born again, but he was not a tither, guess what I did? I walked away, because there's a lot of born again believers and a lot of Christians who do not believe in tithing. I believe your faith in Christ, tithing, and your health, personal decisions. Those are things you are to personally agree on for yourself. And so if I met a man who was a believer who did not believe in tithing because he thought the pastor was using his money for the pastor to buy a big truck and big house and alligator shoes, guess what I did? I quietly laid back and ghosted him. Because I'm not going to fight with a man for you to be a tither. I am a tither. I'm a giver. So it's only fair for me to marry somebody who's also a tither and a giver, and not somebody that I had to convince to tithe. Can you imagine trying to convince somebody to tithe? No, ma'am. No. Number 3 on my list was he had to be a gentleman. I love my husband. Oh, he is such a gentleman. And that's one of the first things I noticed about him when we first met that night, that fateful November 4th night, and it was raining and snowing a little bit. He was a gentleman. I love a gentleman. There are some men who are not gentlemen. They don't know how to open the door. They don't want to pull out your chairs. They feel as if you don't have you could do it yourself. You have to teach him how to be a gentleman. Teach him to pay for you. Teach him, no ma'am, open the door for you. I pull out my chair for me. No ma'am. I teach my little boy that. My husband teach my little boy. I should have teach a grown man how to be a gentleman. Number 4 on my list was he had to have a good job. Number 4 had to have a good job. My daddy said the least a man can do is put a roof over your head and food on your table independent of you. So if I made a wonderful man who was born again, who was saved, who paid tithes and offering, who was a gentleman, but he did not have a good job, was in between job, can't keep a job, could not provide a roof for me over my head and put food on my table, independent of me. Guess what I did? Girl, I ran for my life. I ran for my life because I can't be homeless and I can't be hungry. There are some other things I had on my list. So those are some of my non-negotiables. Those I do not negotiate. Something that is negotiable for me was kids. I had a child when I was 16. So now the question becomes, would I marry a man with kids? I preferred, and I prayed and believed God, Lord, please bless me with a husband who's never been married, because I've never been married, and who has no kids. Because, I had my daughter at 16, and by the time I was in my 30s, the girl was old. She was 20, okay? My daughter is now 26. When I married my husband, my daughter was 18, turning 19. I preferred a man who did not have any kids. But if there was a man that had one child and he was a good father and so on and so forth, then I could negotiate that. That's negotiable for me. I could look at him and say, he's a good guy, he's a great guy, he's a kid, okay. Now, there was a man, my father told me, man, divorced father of 5, not interested in divorcement. I prefer a man that's not been married, who was divorced, who had custody of his 5 kids. I didn't even go out with him. Why? I'm not taking care of 5 kids. He got 5 kids. Who's going to take care of him? And he was in the military. Who's taking care of those 5 kids when he's away? Me? Absolutely not. Plus, I had 1. Plus, I wanted 1 or 2 more. So that's 10 people I would have to take care of. And I'm a writer. I don't think so. So you know what? I didn't even go out and meet this man. Why? Because I knew in my head that I would not be interested in this man. Because I don't want to take care of 5 kids. So, beloved, this is what I'm saying. You need to have a list, a guideline that you stick with to help you to make a decision about this man. He's in between jobs. Oh, Lord, that means I'm only going to eat sometimes. I'm not going to eat every time. He can't keep a job. Child, that means I might be homeless sometimes. I can't be in the streets. He don't believe in tithing. We're going to be fighting. He can't keep it in his pants, and I knew this before I married him. Oh, Lord. He wants to hang out all day, all night with his boys. What's going to happen when I get married? There's a lady that posted, she said, I just can't stand the way my husband chew his food. My question was, did you know how he chew his food before you marry him? These are the things you gather data on. Dating is about gathering the data so that you can make an informed decision. This book is available on Amazon and on my blog, my is shining in my face. So you gather the data, you know what you like. I like a gentleman. I like him to pull out my chair. I like men that pay. I don't pay. I don't pay rent. I don't pay mortgage. Okay? When I go out with a man, I want a man to pay for me. There are different types of men, 50-50, 75-25, 100%. I want 100% man that understands it is his responsibility to provide for his family. So if that is what you want, you date according to that. I know many women who want that and then marry the man understanding he's a 50-50 and then get in the marriage and fight and argue about him providing for the rent. When you knew going in, he didn't believe that. So now you got in and now you want him to change and be 100% man. If that's not who he is and that's what you want, you choose what you want. You make a list. You talk to him. You say, oh, what do you believe about providing for your family? Well, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. You pay 50, I pay 50%. Not interested. You smile and say, oh. Don't try to convince him to think otherwise or change his mind. That is who he is. Okay, I dropped a guy who don't open doors. He asked me, what's wrong with your hands? I said, okay. Another man who would not ask my spiritual father for my hand in marriage. Okay, never went out with him again. Another man I dropped, he wanted me to ask me about boob jobs. Bye. Another guy who was $500,000 in debt. Bye, I hate that. Yes, we all have some kind of little bit of debt, but $500,000 in debt. And then the following year, he lost his job, had to move up his studio apartment. I had a one-bedroom studio apartment, moved back home with his mama. No, ma'am. Date accordingly, gather the data that you need to make an informed decision. This book is filled with different types of men. You gather the data, but you can't gather the data unless you know what you want. In order for you to gather the data about what you want, it's just like a research paper. I always go back to the research paper. You have to have the topic that you want to write on so that you can gather the information about the topic. If you don't know what you're going to write on, you go to the library, which books are you going to get? You don't know the types of books you want to get because you don't know what your subject is. And so it's the same thing in dating, ladies. You date accordingly. I have another video called Date According to What You Want. So I'm telling you, ladies, have your list. There's nothing wrong with the list. I don't care what the church folks say. I don't care what the crazy people say. Divorce is over 51% in the church. Why do you think that is? Because all of them say, God told me to marry them, knowing you don't like that man, and no, divorce is 50%, over 50% in the church. So know what you want. Date accordingly. Make a list. Be able to wiggle a little bit. It's just a guideline. Okay, he broke, child. He can't keep a job. What does that mean? Me and my kids, we gonna be hungry, and I can't be hungry. No, I don't want to be hungry. It's winter, and we're not gonna have any heat. Okay. He $5,000 in debt. What happens if he loses his job? Whose debt is that gonna be paid on? Okay, we're going to spend forever paying off your student loans. How are we going to save for our children? How am I going to save for my kids to go to college? How am I going to leave an inheritance for my children's children? How are we going to fund an emergency fund when $500,000 of his whole paycheck goes to paying his student loans? Who's going to pay this mortgage? When I go to have the baby, can I stay home 6 months to a year, or do I have to run back to work because he can't pay this rent by himself? These are the things you think about before you get married and jump in. And then you get married and you want to cry and complain about what you knew before. He grabs you. He's mean. He slaps you. He yells and he screams at you. And then you still go ahead and marry him and then cry afterwards. You knew that before. So you gather the data and you make a decision based on what you know. Get your emotions out of it. Once you know there is a mutual interest and mutual attraction, tie your emotions up in a little bowl and stick it all the way back here and gather the data for the husband that you want to spend forever. Look at him. Sit at a table, at a well-lit table. Look in his eyes. Look at how he chews his food. Does he pick his teeth with a fork? Does he blow his nose at the table? Does he know how to use a knife and fork? If I went out with the guy, he's using knife and fork the wrong, bye, I'm done. Because then I'm going to get into mommy mood and be like, oh, that's not how you use a knife and fork, and don't want to do that. So ladies, make that list. 10 negotiables and non-negotiables. I can help you if you need help. I will help you, because all that 100 stuff list you got, you can't keep up with it. You don't need 100. 10 things, negotiables and negotiables. You have 10 fingers. Write them on this. So you're on the date. He broke, child. He can't keep no job. He got 50 kids, child. Who's going to take care of him? All right, my beloveds, make that list and I will help you. Contact me, email me, leave a comment below, subscribe if you haven't, share this out. Love you. Have a good day. Bye.